Hi, this is E.T., and this is Jack Finney. He's author of books like Time and Again and Time After Time, numerous short stories, and the novella The Body Snatchers, which is subject of today's video. Finney's story originally was published in serial form in Collier's magazine. I think that was in late 1954, and it was put to film in 1956 as The Invasion of the Body Snatchers by producer Walter Wanger and director Don Siegel. It starred Kevin McCarthy, Dana Winter, King Donovan, Carolyn Jones, and Larry Gates. And it may be the best sci-fi film ever made. This black and white film opens with Dr. Miles Bennell McCarthy frantically screaming in some hospital emergency room while doctors are trying to settle him down. And eventually Bennell begins to tell a story. And he continues to narrate as the movie flashes back to a few days earlier, when Bennell is met by his nurse at a railroad depot in the nearby small town of Santa Mira, California. The late morning sky is clear, the mood warm as the California sun. But just minutes into the film, the audience is beginning to know something's wrong. It begins when Dr. Bennell almost runs over young Jimmy Grimaldi, who is frantically running in the street, away from something. The tension gets an uptick when Bennell notices the senior Grimaldi's unkempt vegetable stand. Another uptick when Bennell, now at his office, hears his nurse, Jean Willis, comment that several patients have canceled their appointments. Now, the first genuine fear jolt is when Bennell's former girlfriend, Becky Driscoll, played by Dana Winter, appears and explains that her cousin Wilma doesn't believe her uncle is her uncle. Now, just 7 minutes into the film, we know that something strange and bad is happening in Santa Mira, and we're aware that Bennell and Driscoll will likely get close again, which they do, their relation integrating with, as opposed to detracting from, the plot narration. Now, that's something too common in other science fiction movies. We later see Cousin Wilma. She's sitting on a yard swing with Bennell and Becky as her Uncle Ira mows the lawn. And we know, despite Bennell's protestations that Ira is Ira, that Wilma is correct. Ira is not Ira. Only 15 minutes in, we understand that more people are likely to be changed, a fear that resonated in the mid-50s when post-war Americans openly questioned their own identities. They bantered words like anomie and alienation. Current fare offered by, say, the Science Fiction Channel at 15 minutes into a movie would have already watered down tension with boring, prolonged sub-dramas like why the 20-year-old girl physicist with pumped-up lips like a sea bass still has issues with her former husband, whose presence at the laboratory is necessary to deal with some yet-to-be-defined crisis. No, 20 minutes into Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and we know a lot. Becky and Bennell hear from other physicians, including a psychiatrist, Dan Kaufman, played by Larry Gates, that a mass psychosis is running through the town. And we find out a near-hysterical couple, the Belichicks, Jack and Teddy, played by King Donovan and Carolyn Jones. Jack, by the way, is a writer. The Belichicks have a body lying on their pool table at their home, and it appears unfinished, no fingerprints even. 30 minutes into the film, Mrs. Belichick sees the body move. It's bleeding from a hand cut, and it's exactly the same cut that her husband got earlier when he dropped a bottle. Now, Bennell, who is home after dropping off Becky at her home, she's living, by the way, with her father, when Bennell is awakened by a frantic Jack and Teddy, who tell him what happened. Now, panicked for Becky, Bennell breaks into her basement window and he sees in a closet a clone forming of Becky. He goes upstairs. He carries her into his car. He drives her to his home, where the Belichicks are waiting. By this time, Dr. Kaufman has been called, and Bennell and Kaufman and Jack go to the Belichick home. There's no body. They go to Becky's home, no clone, and Kaufman convinces all that they're just seeing things. 40 minutes in, we see Becky's cousin apologizing to Bennell for her delusional behavior. Then we follow her into her shop where Becky's father is present, and we know for sure now they're both pod people. 50 minutes in, Bennell, Becky, and the Belichicks see pods maturing in an outdoor greenhouse, and Bennell is unable to call outside authorities. Obviously, they've taken over the phone company, maybe the whole town. Eventually, Jack and even Becky become pod people. Kaufman, we later realize, was a pod person early on. And Bennell, amped up on amphetamines and knowing that pods are being farmed nearby and being trucked to neighboring towns, runs onto a freeway in the middle of traffic screaming, they're coming for you!" The last scene takes us back to the hospital. The consensus there is that Bennell needs to be put into a straitjacket and then taken to a mental facility. But then an ambulance driver arrives with a trucker on a stretcher. He'd been involved in an accident. The ambulance attendant explains that seed pods, giant ones from the truck, were scattered all over. The doctors now are fully aware that Bennell's story was true, and they alert the government and police authorities, and we in the audience, in near despair at this point, now have some hope. And now some thoughts. Director Siegel and producer Wanger did not like the first and last hospital scenes. They preferred ending it with Bennell screaming on the freeway. But now E.T. feels that the scenes worked because they allowed Bennell to narrate throughout the movie, and that sped up things by eliminating distracting scenes and dialogue. And those hospital scenes were thematically more consistent with the optimism found in Finney's novella, where the pods simply drifted into space and the remaining pod people, now semi-zombies, died about 5 years later. So what made this film really great? Well, Carmen Dragon's composition, the music, punctuated each scene with the relentless message that something very bad is happening and worse is to come. And then there's Ellsworth Frederick's photography, the combination of the jarring sound, the music, and the noir filming created a mood lacking in later remakes of Finney's story, although almost all of those are very good, in my opinion. And then there was the casting. Kevin McCarthy, although generally known to the public, had not yet coalesced into some character, so he could play this without having to be reminded of his earlier movies. And then Dana Winter previously appeared in very small roles on film and on TV, reacted believably in the very unbelievable happenings in Santa Mira. And then King Donovan, one of the most talented character actors for both drama and comedy. He, more than any other character, in my opinion, set the tone for the audience that Siegel and Wanger wanted. And then there was Carolyn Jones as Teddy. She was great too, as were even the minor players, including Whit Bissell and Richard Deacon, the two doctors in the emergency room. But most important was the storyline. It never lagged, nor did the photography ever attempt to direct our attention away from the unrelenting fear that our world, as we understood it, may be destroyed. One more thing. Some of you sci-fi enthusiasts are going to demand that everybody know that Finney's novella was a rip-off of Robert Heinlein's The Puppet Masters, which it may have been, but Both Finney's novel and Wanger's and Siegel's movie turned out to be far better than either Heinlein's novel or the film The Puppet Masters, which came out later. Such are E.T.'s thoughts. What are yours? Type them into the comment section below. And do like and share these videos. Thank you.